First contact shock. The Mordanax had conquered 7 galaxies. Their very name caused planetary systems to surrender without a fight. Evolution had crafted them into the perfect predators. 12-foot frames of corded muscle and chitin, sensory organs that could detect a heartbeat from orbit, and neural networks that processed combat scenarios faster than most species could blink. They didn't negotiate. They didn't show mercy. They simply arrived, assessed, and consumed. Until they met humans. Preliminary scan complete, War Commander. The navigator's voice was a guttural series of clicks that reverberated through the command deck of the Fang of Night. This system contains 8 planets, with the third one showing signs of advanced civilization. War Commander Vexthal stalked across the bridge, his talons clicking against the metallic floor. His ridge-lined face remained expressionless, but the slight vibration of his hunting quills betrayed his excitement. New prey always stirred the instincts. Life signs, he asked, his translator converting the complex patterns of scent chemicals he released into words the crew could understand. Approximately 8 billion entities on the primary world, War Commander. They call it Earth. Preliminary intelligence suggests they've only achieved interstellar travel within the last century. Standard procedure classifies them as Category 3 prey, suitable for harvest but unlikely to provide significant challenge. Vexthal's mouthparts twitched in what passed for a smile among his kind. All new species believe they're exceptional until they face us. Prepare a scout party. Standard assessment protocol. The navigator bobbed his head in submission. There's a small outpost on their 4th planet. A research station with perhaps 50 individuals. Perfect for initial testing. Make it so. 12 hours later, 5 elite hunters launched toward Mars Outpost Theta, the most remote human settlement in the solar system. Their mission was simple: infiltrate, evaluate defensive capabilities, take samples, and leave no survivors. Dr. Maya Chen yawned as she checked the atmospheric recycling systems for the 3rd time that day. Mars Outpost Theta wasn't exactly the most exciting assignment in the Earth Space Initiative, but it offered an unparalleled opportunity to study terraforming techniques up close. Looking thrilling as ever, Chen, said a voice behind her. Lieutenant James Cooper leaned against the doorframe, his security uniform slightly rumpled from his recent nap. Someone has to make sure we all keep breathing. Cooper, she replied with a small smile. Not all of us can spend our days playing cards and complaining about the freeze-dry coffee. Cooper was about to retort when the lights flickered. Both of them glanced up. Power surge? Chen asked. Cooper frowned, his hand unconsciously moving to the sidearm at his hip. We don't get power surges, not with the new fusion setup. The outpost's AI chimed in through the speakers. Attention all personnel. Anomalous readings detected in maintenance shaft C7. Security protocol Alpha 9 is now in effect. Chen watched as Cooper's posture changed instantly. The laid-back security officer disappeared, replaced by the veteran of the Nigerian resource wars, who had seen more combat than anyone else at the outpost. Get to the safe room, he ordered, all humor gone from his voice. Now, what's Alpha 9? She asked, already closing down her station. It means something breached our hull without triggering the emergency protocols. His eyes met hers. That's supposed to be impossible. The first scream came from the hydroponics lab. It cut off abruptly. Cooper drew his weapon. Run. Chen never made it to the safe room. 3 corridors down, something massive and chitinous dropped from a ventilation shaft directly in front of her. Her scientific mind registered details even as fear flooded her system. Bipedal but with too many joints, covered in overlapping plates that seemed to shift color to match the surroundings, eyes that didn't reflect light, but somehow absorbed it. The creature tilted its head, studying her with what looked like genuine curiosity. Then it lunged. The shot that hit it came not from Cooper, who was still too far behind, but from Chen herself. The small derringer she kept in her lab coat, a gift from her frontier-raised grandfather, discharged with a sound that seemed absurdly inadequate in the face of such a monster. The bullet struck the creature's eye. It wasn't a killing blow, but the unexpected pain and partial blindness caused it to miss its lunge. Instead of impaling Chen on its claws, it crashed into the wall beside her. Chen didn't wait to see what happened next. She ran. The next 27 minutes of recorded outpost footage would later become required viewing at every military academy on Earth. What was supposed to be a simple evaluation of an inferior species turned into something the Mordenacs had never experienced. Failure. The humans didn't follow any of the expected prey behaviors. When cornered, they didn't freeze or submit. They improvised. Dr. Liang converted the kitchen's flash freezer into a trap. Maintenance Tech Wilson weaponized the atmospheric regulators to flood sections with caustic cleaning chemicals, and Lieutenant Cooper, using nothing but a wrench and remarkable timing, managed to decapitate one of the galaxy's most perfect predators. But it was Captain Alina Reyes who truly changed everything. Her supply ship docked during the middle of the attack, and instead of retreating, the logical move when facing unknown hostiles, she led her 4-person crew directly into the chaos. Hostile aliens at Mars Outpost Theta, her first transmission back to Earth, stated with unnerving calm. Currently engaging. Request reinforcements, but don't rush. We've got this handled. The recording from her helmet cam showed her cornering one of the Mordenac's hunters in the communications array. The alien, bleeding from multiple wounds but still lethal, hissed something through its translator. "Why do you not fear?" The alien's mechanical voice asked. Captain Rice laughed. Actually laughed. "Why would I? You're just the monthly crisis. Last month it was that solar flare that nearly fried our comms. Month before that, Jenkins here had appendicitis with no surgeon within 50 million miles. She gestured to the weapon in her hand. A mining charge repurposed as a grenade. Life's always trying to kill us. You're just a bit more dramatic about it. She tossed the charge. When the dust settled, 3 of the 5 Mordenac's hunters were dead. 1 was captured, unprecedented in the species' long history of conquest, and 1 escaped, racing back to the Fang of Night with recordings that would shake the foundations of Mordenac society. "Impossible," War Commander Vexthal whispered, watching the footage for the 6th time. "Check the translation again. They must be mistaken." The Chief Intelligence Officer's quills vibrated anxiously. "The translations are accurate, War Commander." The humans were laughing during combat. They made jokes while killing our elite hunters. And most disturbing of all, their neural readings show heightened pleasure responses during extreme stress situations. "No species responds to danger with pleasure," Vexthal insisted. "It defies evolutionary logic. The humans appear to be unique in this regard," the intelligence officer continued. "Further analysis suggests they evolved on a planet that constantly tried to kill them. Extreme weather variations, thousands of venomous creatures, fluctuating radiation levels from their sun. Their entire history is a series of disasters they've survived through what can only be described as stubborn refusal to die appropriately." Vexthal turned away from the screen. For the first time in his long and bloody career, he felt something unfamiliar in his thoracic cavity. It took him several moments to identify it. "Fear. We've encountered adaptation before," he said finally. "No species is invincible." "There's more, War Commander," the intelligence officer added reluctantly. The captured hunters' final transmission included human communications they intercepted. It seems the humans have already launched a response team, led by the same female who used improvised explosives against our hunters. "They're coming after us." Vexthal's quills stood straight up in shock. "No prey species has ever." "They don't consider themselves prey, War Commander. According to their transmissions, they've classified us as hostile first contact and have authorized their military to respond with proportionate force to protect Earth interests." Vexthal stared at the starfield beyond the view screen. Somewhere out there, humans were preparing to hunt the hunters. The concept was so alien that his mind struggled to process it. "Set course away from this system," he ordered finally. "We need to consult the High Council before proceeding." "Retreat, War Commander." The navigator's voice carried disbelief. "Strategic withdrawal," Vexthal corrected sharply. "And increase sensor sweeps to maximum range. I want to know immediately if any human vessels are following us." As the fang of night accelerated away from Earth's solar system, Vexthal couldn't shake the image of the human captain laughing in the face of death. Such behavior defied every biological principle the Mordnax understood. Prey feared predators. It was the most fundamental law of existence. What kind of species evolved to find joy in danger? And more importantly, what would happen when the rest of the galaxy discovered that humans weren't just another species to be conquered, but something entirely new? Something that hunted back. The hunter becomes the hunted. The central chamber of the Mordnax High Council had never hosted an emergency session in its 17,000-cycle history. Until today. 12 apex lords, each bearing the scars of 1,000 successful hunts, gathered in the circular room carved from the bones of extinct predators. Their agitation manifested in the rhythmic clicking of talons against ceremonial armor and the faint hissing of air through hunting quills. War Commander Vexthal stood in the center, his posture rigid as the recording from Mars Outpost Theta played for the assembled lords. The footage showed Captain Alina Rice smiling as she rigged a power conduit to explode, trapping a Mordnax hunter. Her voice, translated through their systems, echoed through the chamber. "You know what your problem is. You evolved to be the perfect ambush predator. But humans, we evolved to be the perfect survivors. Big difference." The recording ended. Silence filled the chamber until High Lord Crabnex rose from his throne of ossified remains. "In 3 million cycles of conquest," he began, his voice like gravel being crushed, "we have never retreated. Yet you bring us this disgrace." Vexthal's quills flattened against his skull in submission, but his voice remained steady. "I bring you wisdom purchased with the lives of our hunters, my lord. These humans are not like other prey." "Explain," demanded another council member, Lord Zithrak. "They do not respond to fear with submission or flight. They respond with aggression and creativity. They adapted our own tactics against us within minutes of first contact. And most disturbing of all," Vexthal paused, knowing his next words would sound like madness, "they derive pleasure from confronting death." The chamber erupted in dismissive clicking. "Impossible," Zithrak declared. "No species evolves toward death-seeking behavior." "Not death-seeking," corrected Vexthal. "Death-defying. There is a crucial difference. Our intelligence division has analyzed their neural patterns. When faced with lethal threats, their brains release chemicals that enhance performance and create sensations of euphoria. They are, quite literally, addicted to survival." High Lord Kravnex leaned forward. "And you believe this makes them dangerous enough to justify retreat?" "I believe," Vexthal said carefully, "that they represent an evolutionary path we have never encountered, one that warrants careful study before engagement." A new voice joined the discussion. Grand Strategist Mevhak, oldest of the council members. "There is another concern. The human vessel that departed Mars Outpost Theta. Where is it now?" Vexthal's quills twitched involuntarily. "We lost track of it 3 cycles ago. Their propulsion technology is unusual, less advanced than ours, yet somehow capable of navigational patterns our sensors struggle to predict." "You mean," Mevhak translated bluntly, "they are following us, and you cannot detect them." Before Vexthal could respond, the chamber's alert system activated. A junior intelligence officer entered, his movements betraying extreme agitation. "Forgive the interruption, exalted ones," the officer said, prostrating himself. "We have detected a human transmission. It appears to be directed at us." "Play it," ordered Kravnex. The chamber's communications array activated, and Captain Alina Rice's face appeared in the holographic display. She looked remarkably calm for someone addressing the most feared species in known space. Greetings, Mordnax Council. I hope my pronunciation of your species name is acceptable. We extracted it from your hunter's translation device. I am Captain Elena Reyes of the Earth Space Initiative. I believe we have matters to discuss. Zitharak hissed in outrage. How dare this prey address? I understand, Rice continued, cutting across the alien's indignation, that your species has certain expectations about how interactions with other life forms should proceed, typically with you hunting, killing, and conquering. That won't be happening with humanity. She leaned closer to the camera. Let me be clear, we're not interested in war. But we're very, very good at it if pushed. The fact that I'm transmitting this message from within your own sensor shadow, using your communication frequencies, should demonstrate that point adequately. The council chamber erupted into chaos as the implications sank in. The humans had not only followed them undetected, but had also deciphered their secure communications protocols in a matter of days. We propose a meeting. Rise continued calmly over the alien commotion. Neutral territory. The abandoned Selkari trading post at coordinates I'm transmitting now. 2 representatives from each side. No weapons. She smiled, and somehow that expression sent chills through even the battle-hardened council members. Though, as your hunters discovered on Mars, humans can weaponize almost anything if necessary. The transmission ended. Captain Elena Reyes checked her appearance one final time in the small mirror of her quarters aboard the ESI vessel Tenacity. The standard-issue uniform had been modified slightly for this historic occasion, reinforced with subtle armor weave and equipped with various hidden tools that technically weren't weapons, but could certainly become them. Her XO, Commander Darren Jenkins, watched from the doorway. The Council approved this meeting in record time. 3 hours from your transmission to their response. You definitely got their attention. Fear is a powerful motivator, Rise replied, adjusting her collar. Even for apex predators who've never experienced it before. And if they decide to ignore the no weapons rule. Rise smiled. Then we improvise. As usual. She turned to face him. The shuttle ready. Prepped and waiting. Dr. Henriksen is already aboard. Still complaining that we shouldn't have brought a xenobiologist to a first contact negotiation. He'll change his tune when he gets to study a live Mordnax up close. As they walked through the corridors of the Tenacity, crew members nodded respectfully. Everyone understood the stakes. Humanity had accidentally stumbled into a galaxy ruled by fear, and their unexpected resistance to that fear had created a dangerous moment of opportunity. The abandoned Selkari trading post loomed ahead of their shuttle, a massive ring-shaped structure slowly rotating in the void between star systems. Once a bustling center of commerce, it had been abandoned a century earlier when the Mordnax began their expansion into this sector. Picking up their shuttle, reported the pilot. They're already docked on the far side. Reyes nodded. Right on time. Predators are punctual, if nothing else. The human shuttle docked smoothly. Rise and Henriksen disembarked, entering the eerily silent trading post with measured steps. Emergency lighting cast long shadows across abandoned stalls and counters, giving the whole place the feeling of a mausoleum. They found the Mordnax representatives waiting in what had once been the station's central marketplace. War Commander Vexthal stood with another Mordnax Rice didn't recognize, larger, bearing elaborate scars carved deliberately into its kitten armor. Captain Reyes. Vexthal greeted her, his translator converting his chemical signals into speech. You have caused quite the disturbance among my kind. That wasn't our intention, Reyes replied diplomatically. Self-defense rarely is. Self-defense, repeated the larger Mordnax, his voice deeper and more resonant. An interesting concept from a species that pursues its attackers across space. I am Grand Strategist Mevhak, he continued. I have authorized this meeting against significant opposition. Many on our council believe you should simply be eradicated before your peculiarities spread. And yet here you are, Reyes observed, which suggests you see something worth discussing. Mevhak's head tilted slightly. We have conquered 7 galaxies, Captain. No species has ever resisted us effectively. Until humans. This anomaly requires investigation. Dr. Hendrickson stepped forward. If I may, our preliminary analysis suggests a fascinating evolutionary divergence. Your species evolved as ambush predators, perfecting stealth and overwhelming force. Humans evolved as persistence hunters, developing endurance and problem-solving instead. Explain, demanded Vexthal. Before we had technology, humans hunted by literally chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. We can't run as fast as most animals, but we can run longer. We evolved to enjoy the chase, to find satisfaction in overcoming challenges rather than just the kill itself. Henriksen gestured enthusiastically as he warmed to his subject. You evolved to be perfect killers. We evolved to be relentless survivors. Mevhak's quills vibrated in what Reyes was beginning to recognize as agitation. You find pleasure in struggle, in pain. Not in pain itself, Reyes corrected. In overcoming it. There's a difference. The trading post emergency lights flickered, and Reyes noticed Vexthal's posture shift subtly. Her instincts screamed a warning. I notice we're experiencing some power fluctuations, she said casually, almost as if someone was rerouting energy to, say, a capture field or weapons system that shouldn't be active during a peaceful negotiation. Vexthal's quills flattened against his skull in what she interpreted as surprise. Our intelligence department analyzed this station's schematics during our approach. Reyes continued smoothly. Standard procedure. We identified 16 potential ambush points, 23 systems that could be weaponized, and 4 separate ways to trigger the station's self-destruct sequence. Commander Jenkins has a trigger for one of those sequences in his hand right now, watching this conversation from our shuttle. She smiled pleasantly. But that's not why we're here, is it? We're here to talk about the future. Mevhak made a sound that the translator didn't interpret, something between a hiss and a click. You came prepared for betrayal. We came prepared for everything, Reyes corrected. That's what humans do. Now, shall we discuss terms, or would you prefer to see which of us is better at improvising with limited resources? After a long, tense moment, Vexthal gave a command through his communicator. The lights stabilized. Terms, Mevhak said reluctantly. 3 hours later, Captain Reyes and Dr. Hendrickson returned to the Tenacity with the first non-aggression pact the Mordnax had ever signed with another species. It established Earth's solar system as sovereign territory and opened preliminary diplomatic channels. They're terrified of us, Jenkins remarked as they reviewed the agreement in the ship's conference room. Not of our weapons or technology. They're ahead of us there. They're terrified of how we think. With good reason, Henriksen added. From their perspective, we're evolutionary aberrations, prey species that act like predators, creatures that run toward danger instead of away from it. We're the only species they've encountered that sees obstacles as challenges rather than deterrents. Ray studied the alien script alongside its human translation. This won't last forever. They'll adapt, study us, try to find weaknesses, but it buys us time. Time for what? Asked Jenkins. Time to show them there's an alternative to their endless cycle of conquest. Reyes looked up from the document. The Mordnax have spent millions of years evolving to be the perfect killers, but they never developed the one thing humans excel at, finding ways to turn enemies into allies. You think we can change them? Henriksen sounded skeptical. I think, Reyes said thoughtfully, that any species intelligent enough to recognize a threat is intelligent enough to recognize an opportunity. The galaxy has operated on their terms for too long. Conquest, submission, extinction. Now they've encountered a species that doesn't play by those rules. She stood and moved to the viewport, watching as the stars streaked by. Somewhere out there, the Mordnax Council was undoubtedly debating what to do about the strange, laughing creatures who treated lethal danger as an interesting puzzle to solve. They think they've encountered a new kind of predator, Reyes said softly. What they've actually encountered is something much more dangerous. A species that chooses cooperation over predation, not because we're weak, but because we're strong enough to afford compassion. Jenkins joined her at the viewport. And if they don't learn that lesson? Reyes's expression hardened slightly. Then they'll learn why. Throughout human history, the most dangerous predators were always the ones that had evolved from prey. As the tenacity accelerated toward Earth, carrying news of humanity's first galactic treaty, the Mordenax Council convened again. This time, their discussion centered not on conquest, but on adaptation. For the first time in their bloody history, they faced a choice between evolution and extinction. The hunters had become the hunted, and the galaxy would never be the same.